Hi guys, happy Friday. I hope you are doing well. I hope your Friday is fantastic. Mine is great. I'm super excited to have the Angie Obwaka as my guest. Welcome
Thank you
so
for having
much,
me.
Angie.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited.
Me too. I actually didn't sleep last night. I was just like, I couldn't wait for today. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you.
Yes. So today we want to talk about salary negotiation. So the other day I did a reel, just demonstrating how if you're not good at salary negotiation, or if it's something that you don't think about, it can really disadvantage you when you attend an interview, because then if you overquote, it's a problem. If you underquote, it's a problem. So I thought it was important that we have this discussion on salary negotiation, and there's no better person than Angie, to come and, for us to have this conversation. And our goal is to make sure we give you enough information to also help you continue doing your research, but this information is going to be very vital and critical for you before you go for an interview. And I'm not going to, today, Angie is the guest, and I would want to give her ample time to run this conversation. So, Angie, on salary negotiation, just as as a way of introduction, what are some of the things that we need to think about when we're going for an interview?
All right. Before I start, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited about collaborating with you. I'm excited about the podcast. I'm excited about being on here. And I hope if you guys haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. Because this is meaningful information, which you're not going to just use before an interview, but you'll use 10 years down the line. Because even if it's not negotiating salary, you're negotiating something all the time, even at the market.
Exactly.
You're negotiating, for new products, for new services. So you need to understand what things should you have at the back of your mind to be able to be successful. So, this is something I'm very passionate about. I think we spend so much time thinking about like CV writing and LinkedIn optimization, all these things. But if at the end of the day you have fantastic documents and then you go into the interview room, maybe your documents say you're worth, quote unquote, you're worth like 50,000, but you don't know how to articulate that you're worth 50,000. You'll come out of there with 20,000, or even working for free. Because there are people who that ends up happening, and then you're so upset, you're miserable, but it's because you don't know how to communicate that value. And salary negotiation is one of the places that that happens. So I'm really excited about covering it. And as mentioned to Joanne beforehand, is that I think it's important for people to think about salary negotiations not just in the interview, because that's what people focus on. It's like, okay, so what will I tell them? And what if they don't want to offer me what I want? But thinking about it before the interview, thinking about it during the interview, and then after the interview. So I think that's sort of how I want us to have the conversation.
Exactly. Because it's actually a skill. Negotiation is a skill, and actually for some jobs, like one of the softer skills they're going to be on the lookout for is how you negotiate. And I like what you've said, that it's something that you need to think about not only during interviews. Like, it's a skill that you need to be intentional about.
Definitely.
Like cultivating. So before an interview, what are some of the things that you need to be on the lookout for? What are some of the things that you need to think about?
Okay. So before the interview, number one is that you want to do research. Research. I don't know how many times we can say that. The same energy you gave to looking for the job, you need to give to salary, researching what the salary is. And so what exactly are you researching? You're researching the market rate. So what is this position worth? Okay, so if you think about, let's say you're a teacher or a lecturer, you could think about, okay, so what are lecturers paid? What are lecturers paid in Kenya? There's a fantastic website that I usually refer people to. It's called Payscale, payscale.org. We might put it down in the video. I don't know how you do things here. We might put it down, maybe in the link, in the description box. So payscale.org, regardless of where you are in the world, you're able to look at the market rates for any position. So you can just put payscale.org/Kenya, and then you type in the role, and they'll tell you this is what people are paid. This is the high end of salary. This is the lower end, and it's based on these number of things, whether it's experience, etc. So number one, what is the market rate? But number two, what is the industry rate for that particular position? So depending on which part of the world you are in or what kind of industry you're going into. So the public sector does not pay the same,
As
lecturers the same,
multinational.
as multinationals or
Right.
as NGOs or as small businesses. So if I'm coming to work for a one
man show.
one-man show,
Uh-huh.
like I can't expect that I'll be paid the same as somebody who is
At
you know,
Microsoft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just want to cut and paste, you know. So it's important for you to be sure about what industry you're part of and what are they paying in that industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you want to research is the specific company. So you see, we're coming from like broad and we're narrowing it down. That specific company. What kind of company is it? Again, it's the size aspect, but then it's also this particular company. Is it a startup? Is it a company that is receiving donor funding? Because
Right.
it might be small and it's a startup, but it has donor
Yeah,
funding, which
money.
means they
Yeah.
have more money to spend. And then beyond that, at company level, sorry you guys, if you know, just at this point, I usually say this before I speak and I forgot. I speak very fast, and that's a gift that we have in our family. So if I'm moving a bit too fast, you can always, you know, slow down the speed on the podcast or on the video, and you can just listen to this podcast again. Just you know, just mkae mkijua. Okay,
You're actually
just,
doing very well.
all right. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just conscious about, because people just like, wait, what?
Why?
1 point number
Why?
4 or
Like-
5 now already? Yeah. So the other thing is that the fifth thing is researching this company in terms of speaking to people in that company.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
there are people who work there already.
Yeah.
They could tell you, okay, for this position, this is what they usually pay.
Yeah.
And it could be people people who are related to the hiring, so like the hiring manager or somebody in the HR office, but it
Yeah.
could also be somebody else who you know in that company.
Exactly, because that is very important, because most people you know, like some of the questions that people ask is how do I connect with this person that I can ask? And you can actually just reach out to someone on LinkedIn and ask, hi, my name is so and so, I'm interviewing for this role. Do you mind sharing with me the range? Because of course most people are very uncomfortable giving the specific number, but I don't think someone would have a problem just sharing the range, so that then when you're going for the for the interview, you are better prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even in reaching out to people, I really like that. Reaching out to people on LinkedIn is also, you also have to be forthright. Like, don't be sneaky about it. You know, don't be shady. Just the same way if I came to you and I said, how much are you paying your house help? You know, just random. It's like, first, who are you? I mean, as who, like, what is the context for which you're asking? So I'm interviewing for this particular position. This is the background I have. You can tell them a bit more about yourself. People are more willing to open up to you if you share vulnerably. I mean, you don't have to tell them your whole life story, but at least be tactical about how you're asking.
Right. Yeah. So don't go on someone's inbox and just say hi, and just keep quiet, waiting for them to
to say hi back.
To hi back, and then you ask.
Yeah.
Just write a short, straight to the point message saying, "Hi, my name is Angie. I work for this organization. I have, I have an interview, and I just wanted to find out XYZ. Do you mind sharing, with me the salary range?" And don't ask one person. You can ask a number. At least out of like 10 people, surely one is going to give you a range. Right?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think the thinking beforehand, what you just said about this is what you share in that, is that sometimes you don't want to force the other person to give you information that maybe they're not allowed to have, or they're not comfortable sharing, or they're not allowed to share. Exactly. So don't ask them in a way that sort of corners them or make it seem like you're threatening them. Especially if you're going to be maybe in a higher position than them. That could get awkward. So think through how you're going to ask. But that is definitely a way in which you can get information.
If I want to contact someone on LinkedIn and maybe I'm not a direct connection, but you are my friend and you are connected to them, I could use you.
Yeah.
Then that breaks the awkwardness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that was before
the interview.
Go for the interview.
Yeah. So we're talking about research. We've talked about researching the market, researching the industry, researching the company, in terms of where they're getting their funding from, and then speaking to somebody in the company to get that range. But the other thing that you can do before the interview, other than research, is to understand your value. Okay, because I think we spoke about this before we went on. Is that sometimes the industry rate could be high up here, and you are not high up here. You know, maybe you are down here, or even you're higher. You're higher than that, and so you don't want to limit yourself to just what the research says. Because yes, there's standard in terms of what we're paying people, but you might have unique experience. You might have specialist expertise that other people in the industry maybe don't have. And therefore maybe your value, and even based on your previous salaries, maybe you've reached a certain level of negotiation in terms of what you can offer. So you need to understand, what is my value? What is my value proposition? What is it that I'm bringing that's different to what other people are bringing? And therefore be able to now quantify that. So all of those things together, the research plus your own unique value. I think something else that's important before the interview, I jotted some of them down here, is practicing. Is number one, okay, after you've done those first two, is having a number in mind before you go for the interview. Sometimes people are like, I'll do this research, but I'm waiting to be inspired in the interview. Like whatever I sense in the interview, whatever I sense. This is not mystical stuff, guys. That's why we're talking through this. You need to have a number.
Like you need to go in with a number.
Go in with a number, exactly. And that number is based on, you know, a couple of things, obviously your value, etc. But what I usually tell people in our coaching sessions is what we usually call irreducible minimum. Like beneath this number, below this number, I'm not going below this. Yes. Yeah, like maybe there's a range, I want 250,000. But I know for sure I'm not going below 200,000. Because one, maybe the needs that I have personally, maybe just a certain standard that I want to maintain. So that already in your mind you have this number, I can't go below this number, but you also have a number that you're going to ask for. Okay? And related to that number that I'm going to ask for, this might sound funny, but you need to practice saying that number. Okay? Maybe the number you're going to ask for is a number you've never been paid. Okay? You don't want the first time you say it,
250.
Exactly. You start saying it, you will start choking. Or need to like, I can't. Sorry, can I get some? It just seems very weird. Like maybe you've never accepted that now you've reached this particular level.
That is
practice.
your value.
Just start telling yourself in the mirror, 250,000. 250,000. You know what I mean? Like just practice it before. Because these things, they're very like subtle, but they're things that you could even start panicking as you're thinking, oh God, can I maybe say 250? Or maybe I should just go back to my 180.
100.
But be confident and practice it beforehand. Practice saying to somebody else that I would like to be paid this amount of money because of this and this and that and the other, all right? Because it's not just an arbitrary number. Because you've done your research, because you've done all these things, you look at your experience and your value proposition, you're asking for this amount of money because of certain reasons. Practice speaking out those reasons, okay, and make sure you've structured them in your mind before you go into the interview. Let it not be you say, okay, I want to be paid 250,000, and maybe you're worth 250,000, but you can't justify why 250,000.
That's why people normally choke. Because you see, I like what you've said about knowing your value, because after you've taken stock of, this is how much I've invested in my education, this is my experience, these are my special skills, then that number is not so scary. But you see how you might choke if you've not taken stock of your value. So you're not able to say like 250,000. Or also the other thing usually is, if where you're working you're paid like 100,000, people find it difficult not to say I want 250,000. And I like how you're saying you actually need to practice saying it. Can you talk a little bit about how do you justify the 250,000?
Okay. So in terms of justifying what you want to be paid, number one, of course, you can talk about your expertise, right? Although actually, let me take a step back. Usually, I would tell people to start with telling whoever is recruiting, it's an individual, it's a committee or a panel, starting with on estimation, looking at the range of the job. So talk about job descriptors. So based on what I'm going to be doing in this position, based on what I have seen, the amount of time I'll be spending on this, the amount of time I'll be spending on this. So that's where you start off first. So that they don't tune you out because you're just talking about me, this is what I am worth. But it's also, this is the value I'm bringing you guys. This is what I am going to be doing for your organization.
Exactly.
You know,
I
so
like
start by, you know, mentioning to them in these particular areas, based on the fact that I will be representing this organization. I will be the face of this company. I will spend 3/4 of the month, out, getting new partnerships, recording this and supervising these team members, I feel like this salary reflects the amount of value that I will be giving you. On top of that, based on my years of experience, I have been able to develop expertise in these particular areas, which are critical, once again, to the job description that you have. So it's your expertise, it's your exposure as well, so your network and the people that you are connected to that will you'll be able to sort of glean from to be able to serve these people. The other thing is also your education, of course, because you've reached a certain level in your education, you have invested in your education, and that education is not just a title, because usually people will say, I have a master's in this, so what? That means nothing to the company.
Exactly.
But if you say, because of my MBA in entrepreneurship, I have an understanding of XYZ, and because of that, then you see, you're speaking in the language of, this is my value, and this is how my value has now reflected, has converted into this number. But then on top of that as well, you're going to talk about the market rate. I have researched the industry, and I know that this is what is this this position is worth, and I know that for you to be and of course you will commend them like, as because you're going to be your competitive employer, then I know that you will offer nothing less than what the market is offering.
I love it, especially the one for JD, like reading out the JD back to them. Then they are able to know and have a clear understanding why 250 or why 800,000, right? So during the interview, what are some of the things that we need to think about? And I think you've mentioned some, should you say a number? Like, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, should you give a number or a range?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. You should give a range. Okay, give a range.
I actually disagree.
Really?
I give a number.
Yeah, okay. I mean, well, I think it depends. If beforehand, of course, if you've done the homework and you know what your minimum is, then the number, if you give a number, the number should not be that minimum. Okay,
that's the lower
range.
The lower range, actually.
It should not be your lower range should not be at your irreducible minimum, because of course organizations will want to negotiate. So if you've already said you want 250 and your irreducible minimum is 250, you're not likely to get a positive outcome. But if your irreducible minimum is 250, you can do something like maybe 280, 300, especially if you're not really sure. So you could do 280 to 300. But again, the good thing about the range is that the range, you should put the range in terms of a significant high, so that the lower range of your range is what you actually is the number that you preferably give, and that's why I think I'm more for the range. And good employers will not automatically go to the lower end of the range, but I guess maybe with time, if you've negotiated in the past, then you know how to, even though I tell you 280 to 300, you know how to argue so that you're at 300. But if you're not reached that level, I guess, of negotiation, then you might just want to have a number which is 300, and then maybe you can negotiate down.
Because so for me, the reason why I find ranges a bit tricky is, if you tell me your range is 100 and 200, I'm going to offer you, or okay, let's say even 100 and 150, I'm going to offer you 100, and then
but then also
but I actually get your point. So
maybe a smaller range,
like 100 to 100,
maybe 130 to 150.
Yes.
So that I'm not feeling so bad. Even if you offer me 130, it's okay. Because
it's fine.
It's way above what I need. Maybe what my minimum is, like 80. So when I ask you 130, I'm like, okay,
But I think either is fine. Just as long as you know that number, and that number, it's based off of research, talking to people, and thinking about your worth, etc. And then going in with a number below which you can't go. Whether you give a range or you give a specific number, I personally just give a specific number, but it's a markup of what I want, so that then you give room for negotiation. But let's talk about other things that you want to do during the negotiation. Okay,
so one of the things you want to do during the negotiation is not be the one to bring up the salary.
Right, we're talking about
be the one to bring the salary conversation up.
Yeah.
Okay, so because in an interview, I mean, there are very many dynamics in interviews, but really at the end of the day, an interview is for them to assess whether or not what they've believed about you is true, like in terms of your CV and your application, but also to see whether you're a good fit and to see whether there's good value exchange, right? So if in the conversation you have reached a place where you're feeling good about one another, and they haven't brought up the salary negotiation, don't be the one to bring it. That means they're going to, maybe sometimes you might speak to somebody and you're like, my goodness, it's a fantastic person. There's no way we are going to let them go. So we're going to go back as a recruiting team and discuss, okay, so guys, so let's change what we were going to offer. And maybe that's why they've not brought it up, right? Sometimes it's that in terms of their recruiting process, the salary conversation is not part of the first interview, the second interview. They will now bring an offer or lay an offer once they are sure about you. So if you're the one who brings it up in the interview, you look very shady. Yes, materialistic. All you want is just the money. And we do understand that, yes, you do want the money. I mean, it's not charity. And even when it's charity, there's something you're getting from that. But you don't want them to think that you're only there for the job, for the money.
And I think most people also would bring it up so that then if you're not giving me 50,000, why are we wasting each other's time?
But remember, even interviews in these conversations, sometimes it's not even about having a successful interview in terms of getting the job. Sometimes it's the experience that you get in an interview. Sometimes it's the exposure. As you go into an interview, you realize, oh, okay, now I've had a connection with Joanne. Okay, now I know Joanne. I'll go and check her out on LinkedIn. It's a networking opportunity. Sometimes it's just by being in that room and discussing with people in interviews, you realize, actually, I don't want to work for this organization. Like, there are things you don't know about a firm until you're in a meeting or a conversation with them and you realize, actually, based on how they're describing the job, I actually don't want it. Or there are nuances to the industry or to this particular company and what I'll be doing that it would not fit with me, or maybe I need to do more research, or maybe I need to go back to the drawing board and invest in myself a bit more so that I can show up better in interviews next time. So sometimes it's not, I think thinking just about the money when you go for an interview is too narrow a focus.
Exactly. So basically what Angie is saying is the purpose of the interview is to land you an offer, but you do not get the offer by asking about the offer first.
Exactly. And even what you mentioned earlier, when they ask you, do you have any questions for us? That's not the time for you to ask. So how much are you going to pay us?
Are you giving us pocket money for lunch?
And even now,
transport.
Will I get something on my way up? Don't do that. So don't be the one to bring up the salary conversation. But then secondly, now if they do bring it up at that particular point in time, a number of things that you want to look at is body language. Okay, so if they ask you how much you want and you state, you can either automatically state what number you have, or I think some people usually do so what is your salary range? What are you offering? What's your budget for this position? Although I think that's, for me personally, I think the number first, and then we can talk about what's the range, what did you have? Because I'm not coming to fit into what you have there, because I know what I am worth. I know what it is that I'm bringing to the table. So check the body language. If I mention 250 and everybody's eyes just exactly, people are gasping, others are like, you can see them patting one another. No, it's like we're not okay. Already, here there's a bit of issue, so then maybe you can follow it up with, okay, so what did you have in mind? Did you, is this in your range? It's not in your range. And then, so body language is very important. If they're too happy also, from the number,
they're right. You say the number and then they're like,
exactly, they're very, very happy. Hey, also, maybe you need to throw something else in, so maybe I think in your reel, you guys, if you haven't watched that reel, it's hilarious and sad at the same time. So this person in the he's going to in the reel, that's my mom's side of the family.
In the reel,
in the reel, somebody had negotiated for 40,000 shillings, and they were feeling so good about themselves until they entered the company and discovered the lowest person is getting paid. The least paid out salary is 50,000. So if you see they're too happy, also that could be an indicator that, okay, maybe I can throw in a few other things. Okay, so maybe if you see they're too happy, you just be like, okay, so I'd like 40,000, and they're just like, they're like, wow, like we can really, they want to offer you something there. Like, okay, can you throw something else in there? You can ask about maybe transport. You can ask about maybe school fees or training opportunities, things like that. but you can bundle in. It might not just be monetary, but things that you can get as extra value in that particular position. Maybe it could be flexi hours or working from home options. Things that are important to you, you can also throw those in, because so just being aware of, okay, so I've said something, this is how people are reacting, this is how people are taking it. That's something that's important. But number 2 is also the whole aspect of countering, just having the whole negotiation with people. Okay, so you give a number, they're like, okay, we appreciate what you offered, but we are offering this particular number. How do you now have that conversation? So of course it's bringing up things like, this is why you came up with that number, this is what you're going to be able to deliver for them, letting them know that okay, so if we can't pay this amount of money, what else can you offer? What else can you offer? What else can you provide for me? Just because of value exchange. And then also not becoming aggressive in the exchange. Already you start getting upset. Like you even just start. You just start feeling agitated. You don't want to do that. Because then it's like, okay, so you don't know how to have a
negotiation.
Conversation. You don't have emotional intelligence. Like what's happening. Just making sure that you can push back in a way that is still professional, it's respectful, and at the end of the day also knowing when to walk away, because if you're asking for 200,000 and they're not going to move above 50, then you're already not in the same WhatsApp group. Zoom, okay? It's just Zoom meeting now, Zoom call now at this point.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly, it's just not going to happen, and there's a way in which you can respectfully decline or say no, or direct, and maybe somebody else who would offer them that, or you could even because I've seen this also done, which is I think is brilliant. Is okay, so if you're only able to pay maybe half of what I want, you can say, then let's talk about how we can revise my job description to reflect that amount of money, because if you can only pay half what I feel I'm worth or what this job is worth, then let's talk about how we can restructure. I can offer you these things, I can do these things, which will still be value for the organization, but I will not be tempted, because you will also tell them, I will not be tempted to take up side hustles and take up other things because you're not being able to pay me. I want to be able to give you my full attention. I want to be able to give you the best of me. But if you're not able to pay that, let's see how we can do something different.
And even if you're declining the offer, just to let them know, because maybe you really love the organization, you really love the people, but unfortunately they just don't have the budget to have you on board. That you're clearly saying that this is an awesome organization. I read through the JD, it's a perfect fit for me. So that in as much as you might be walking away, then you leave them being respectful of you, because maybe their budget may increase. So you always want to keep that door open, that they might come back, maybe with a better offer, or even just have you as a part-time employee, or have you freelance for them. I also like what you've said about I've actually forgotten, but I think I'm going to remember. So
about changing, was it about the JD? Like
something that you said for during when you're negotiating, but I'll actually remember. So now you've negotiated, you've probably agreed or disagreed. What should you do after?
Okay, so you've come out of the interview, maybe it's been really good. They brought it up or they didn't bring it up, so you've either had the whole conversation or they haven't yet brought it up. Based on what has happened in the interview, if they haven't brought up the salary conversation, you want to go and do more research now. Because being in the interview, you've learned more about the position. You've learned more about, okay, so these are the dynamics. Or maybe sometimes you even thought it was like a hole in the wall kind of firm. But you go there and you're like, oh, kuna pesa. There's something here. So you want to maybe go back to the drawing board and think, okay, yes, I had this number in mind, but because they've not asked me yet, maybe let me think about other things that they could possibly, offer me. So when they come to me the question, I'm already ready with that. But if you've had the discussion, go and do a bit more research also, because maybe they've said in this organization we actually only pay our interns, 2,000. Go and find out. Is this what's true on the ground? Do they actually pay? Because maybe to you, as you listen to them, you realize this doesn't sound real or right. So go and do your extra research to find out is this really true? Is this really going to be a fair offer for me? You can speak to professionals. This is what I was offered. This is what I'm going to be doing. Speak to, HR professionals. Speak to people who are in similar roles in other organizations, and find out, okay, is this a fair offer? Because sometimes just the high of being from an interview and the excitement of a new opportunity, you might find yourself saying yes to things that you might regret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So are we saying that during the interview, should that question come up, you can actually tell them that, do you mind me sleeping over this, and then I'm going to get back to you?
If they make you an offer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if they ask you point blank, so what would you like to be paid?
You have to give a number.
You have to give a number.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to say, let me sleep on it.
I'll go and think about it.
No.
Interview is
at the
going
point
to
where
be
they maybe
over.
offer you, say, okay, for this position, we definitely want you on. We're going to pay you X amount of money. Let them know, oh, that's fantastic. Can I just take it home and discuss it maybe with my spouse, discuss it with my family, or just make sure that I'm clear about the terms.
Exactly. Don't sign the offer right there and then without
ever. Even if they call you,
don't.
Even if you're ready, even if you're feeling like you want to scream.
I want to sign yesterday.
So I will get back to you tomorrow. Yeah, hold it in.
Yes.
Hold it in.
Yeah.
Just because you never know, something else could come up. You might think of a different thing. You want to do your due diligence before you say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also Angie has also said that when you're going in for the interview, have something else that you can use to negotiate other than the money. So you're thinking of certificates, you're thinking about flexi hours, you're thinking about, they have bonuses at the end of the year, can you work from home? Can you do part of the JD? So when you're going for an interview, always have something else that you can use to negotiate other than the money.
Yeah.
All right. So after, do you have anything else to add for after?
No, I think that's it. I think those are the key things to think about. I know it's a lot to think about, but it's important. Like if you actually want to get good at negotiating for a good salary or good benefits and good remuneration, then you want to start thinking about where am I in this whole process? What are the places where I drop the ball, and how can I start doing better in those spaces, and you'll find good results and returns from that.
All right. So I want us to tackle some questions that people had asked. I hope we'll be able to answer most of them. So I'd asked you guys to ask some of the questions that that you have on salary negotiation, and most of you did that. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is how to comfortably justify why you're asking for more money than your previous place of work. I've actually seen this question a lot. So you're earning 50,000, but maybe you're being underpaid for one reason or the other. Maybe this company does not have a budget, and it was your very first job, but your worth was probably it's probably like 100,000. So you've gone for this interview, you've done your research. The market range is let's say 150, but you're currently at 50. How do you justify the 150?
Okay. So there's two main things I usually say. You want to be wary of an employer who only wants to focus on what you've been paid before. So just like, hey, no, but if they constantly are taking you back. So number one, usually there's the question of give us your pay slips. You don't have to give them your pay slips if you don't want to. You're not required by law. But if you do feel like you want to share your pay slips for one reason or the other, you can do that. But then at the same time, you want to tell them, especially like talking about in my previous role, backup. The first thing I would say in response to that is I was previously being paid 50,000, but looking at the job description here, looking at the deliverables that I have here, looking at what it is I'm going to be contributing, the value I'll be bringing, and then all those other things we said, quantify your value. I feel that this role is worth 100,000, and I'd appreciate it if we do not, use my previous employer because of XYZ. So it could be the fact that it's a different company. It could be the fact that when I started there, I didn't have my degree.
Yes.
And they needed somebody with a degree, and now I have my degree. I didn't have experience, now I have experience. I didn't have all manner of different things, but now I have those things. But it's more about you answering with like in a definitive way, so that we're not going back there. In fact, an employer who will constantly, or recruiter will constantly tell you, no, but here, but here, but
you're
here.
being paid red flag.
Exactly, red flag. Because it's not you can't compare a cow and a tomato. I mean, how? Where? Unless the company is exactly the same, unless the company does the exact same thing. They're very different and elements. And sometimes you take a job because you just want experience. You know, you take a lower paying job, or you're working for an NGO or a small CBO just because you want the experience, or you just want to serve, you just want to give back. But now I'm coming to work, you know, professional engagement, and so you need to pay me at that level.
Exactly, and the focus needs to be on the work that you're doing and your value and your worth. So that is what they need to be discussing, not how much you're being paid.
Exactly.
Previously. Then the other question is, when you're hit with this firm cannot afford you, response after indicating your salary expectation. So when they tell you that unfortunately we cannot afford you.
Okay. It depends. Is this at the application stage? You know, sometimes how you send your CV with your salary already beforehand.
Why do they ask people to do that?
It's I feel like it's the lowest level of filtering. I mean, like, why would we? You miss out on so many nice people. If you are an employer and you are watching
please
this or listening to this, don't do that.
Like, in fact, when I see such applications, I tell my clients, like, you don't want to work for that organization. It's already a red flag when they're asking you for you know, for your like salary. I mean, it's just
exactly
horrible.
Because their key thing is the money. As opposed to let's get the best person in the room and then let's see how
it goes.
So if they say they can't afford you, maybe because after the interview process, maybe you can talk to them about, I think, what we mentioned before. What else can they offer you other than the money? Especially if it's not too low, it's not lower than your irreducible minimum. Because maybe you're asking for 100,000 because in that 100,000 you need to pay fees, etc. But maybe they can pay fees for your kids, and therefore you'll be okay with taking a lower salary. You know, you can talk about, okay, so is this a long-term issue that you have, or is it, you know, can I sign on? Maybe because maybe they'll tell you we can't afford you now, but maybe in 6 months. So maybe you can have a conversation. I can come on now, and we will sign something to the effect that within 6 months I will be at this level.
I like that.
And remember, any promises that you are made by a human being, somebody, if it's not God, if it's a human being, it must be written, it has to be signed. By more than one person. Because people will promise you things when they want you to come in, and then they will look at you tomorrow. Tomorrow they'll be like,
who, where, what's
happening?
And have a witness. So your signature, Angie's signature, and another witness.
Exactly.
So there's this nice one. What should I quote at entry level with no experience? I get that question a lot.
Again, it just depends. It depends on, you know, the industry. It depends on a number of things. But I think I would say it depends on what your needs are, especially your needs in terms of your basic needs. That's what I want to say. Because you don't want to quote 10,000 and your transport is 10,000. Like for the month, your transport will be 10,000. So literally, Ojakula lunch. Exactly. You can't do your hair. Can't pay.
You can't take your girlfriend out on a date.
Nothing. Your girlfriend doesn't even know the difference between when you're in campus and now you're working. There's nothing except just title. So whatever it is that it will take to cover your basic needs, that should be the thing, which is your reducible minimum, and then maybe like extra things add-ons. But at least your basic needs should be met. Your food, your transport, and not huge things, guys. Like, don't buy a car with your first salary. But that's not, if you're thinking about that, you're not going to go far. Your food, your rent, your transport, different things. If you are living with your parents or living with somebody else and they're paying that, they're paying for your food, etc., then of course you have the luxury of taking something, you know, lower pay. But again, it's evaluating what's most important for you when you're going to a workplace. For some people, it's experience.
Especially at entry level.
You just want to build experience. Some people, they want to be in an organization where they can get mentorship and exposure. They want fast rising opportunities. So depending on what's most important to you, you'll sacrifice certain things for a period of time. And you're not in entry level for 5 years. It could be 6 months, it could be a year. In that time, of course, learn as much as you can so that you're able to negotiate for better salary going forward.
Yes. And just going back to what we said about doing research, because depending on the industry and depending on the organization, there are some entry levels who are earning 80,000, and there are some who are earning 10,000.
So some who are not being
paid at all. But then, you know, if you're working for UN, even if you're not being paid at all, I mean, you can. in your mind you might just say like, this is you, and the experience and just having that on my CV would be worth it.
Yeah.
But if you're working for Joanne and she's not paying you anything, probably you might just want to like reconsider. So having that knowledge is going to also inform, you know, like what you're asking for in as much as your entry level. Because remember, there's an entry level getting 80,000 you know, in the multinationals, in, you know, like IT companies, in some NGOs, in some companies that are very well funded. So don't say, you know, just because I'm entry level and I don't have experience, like I'll just, you know, 20,000 is going to be enough. Doing that research is going to really inform, you know, like the number that you want to quote.
Yeah.
So I think we can do like maybe 3 more questions. So the next one is, after responding to them by stating that you're okay with a reasonable standard offer in the organization and practice, and they insist for a figure, how do you respond? I don't know if I understand that question. After responding to them by stating this
person has been asked for a number, and they responded with, I'm okay with whatever you guys have. Yeah. Then they've asked her, what's your specific number? Yeah. And that answer of, you know, I'm okay with whatever you have or whatever you're offering, it's not a good answer. Okay, I mean,
it's not being humble.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly. It's not. You think you're being humble. You think you're being, you know, you're endearing yourself to people, but it's not. Are you volunteering? Are you?
Is it?
I mean,
yeah.
Like what? Charity. Know your worth. Know your worth, and people will treat you at the level in which you communicate your worth. I mean, like if you just tell them anything. What is anything?
Kitu yoyote, hata ukitaka ni kuje tu
I promise I'll give you anything, and then you'll be upset. You see, think about it practically. I mean, anything will not pay your bills. Anything will not keep you happy. Anything will not keep you loyal to this organization.
Yeah.
So again, that's research. Plan beforehand. If they've already told you, now give us a number, give them a number.
Yes.
Give them a number.
They can't ask you, give us a number, and you say anything. Or I don't have a number. Like it's not cute.
It's not. It's just
like cute at all.
We're not doing that here.
Yeah. So what to do when they give you a low salary offer, how to respond via email in a conversation. So if it's like on email, I think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I think it's stating. I think the good thing about email is that it's written, and you can now
hide your face.
You can hide your face as you type, even if you're feeling like, well, you know, just, or you're crying there like, can't they just pay me more? They won't be able to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, over as opposed to on the phone or over the or face to face. Just make sure you list out those different elements that we have spoken about. This is the number that you would like, and these are the reasons why. Or if they've already told you that we can only pay you X amount of money, you will let them know, okay, so what else can we have? You know, what else can we do? What else can you offer me? Just so that we can be able to start working together. But if it's too low, there's some offers that are insulting. You know, you've had this whole conversation, and then now they're offering you like a fraction of what you're. I mean, sometimes you could just tell them, you know, thank you so much for the offer. We will not be able to proceed at this particular point in time, but look forward to working with you in the future. Yeah.
And also, like, don't get bullied, because there are people who are going to give you something like a fraction less, and then tell you, you know, we are giving you a very good opportunity. You're going to form networks. Yeah. Like, you even see, you're single, you're still living with your parents. Why do you need money?
In fact, when people say those red flag,
like completely. Like even if they offer you, just say you don't want, because
that's another. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad. Like when people will say, hey, I was in a negotiation and they said, I don't have kids to pay for fees, or I have a husband and my husband is working. Why do I want to get so much money?
So in fact, they ask you, so like, are you married and is your husband working? So why do you want? Why?
I mean, this is not a joint venture.
Yeah.
We're not here, me and my husband. We're going to be working like half the time it's my husband, half the time it's me.
Yeah.
I am the one that you're bringing on board. And those kinds of questions, number one, should already be red flags to you. But this organization, they are a bit suspicious. But you also put them back in their place. Put them in their place. Again, by returning the conversation to, you know, I appreciate your concern about my marriage and how my family works. However, I would like to have a conversation about the value that I'll be bringing and the value that, you know, you feel that this position is worth.
Yeah.
Just put them in their place.
Yeah. The last question. So, should you negotiate with the net salary or the gross salary?
The net salary.
Net
salary. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, net salary.
Yeah.
Because if you say gross salary, you don't know what.
Kila kitu.
They'll remove this, but also also the economy. I mean, let me tell you, when we have these what do you call them, crashing of markets, we have pandemic, we know how inflation up and down. So you could have a gross of 200,000, maybe after deductions comes to like 150, 130.
Yes.
Next year, because like in Kenya we're going to elections, you don't know what it's going to look like. So next year it could be now your 200 gross is giving you 100.
Yeah. Or the government wakes up and says remove another.
Exactly.
So you're basically saying this is what I want to take home. After you remove everything that you guys are going to remove, this is what.
And then it's on them to now work backwards.
Like work backwards. So in closing, Angie, what are like 3 nuggets that you'd want guys to remember from this conversation?
Number 1, or maybe it's all 3: research. The more you research, the better it is. You prepare beforehand, the better you will do, not just even with your negotiation, but everything to do with your career. Honestly, you know, just it's not enough for you to just show up. It's not enough for you to just be good at your job. You need to be able to know how to communicate the value that you have, how to communicate why, you know, you're asking for a certain amount of money. So research and preparation is number 1. Number 2, know your value. Take time to understand your value, what you're offering. Because this salary negotiation is not only for new jobs, it's also when you want a promotion or you want a salary raise. You want a salary raise. You want to know why is it that I'm asking for more money? Because that's what the other person will want to know. Like, why, Angie, you've been happy for the last 10 years, we've been paying you 20,000. Why now? Why do you want 50?
Yeah, what has changed?
What has changed? You need to be able to know, this is my value, and because this is the value I'm bringing, this is what I deserve. And then lastly, do not be afraid to walk away from the negotiating table. Exactly. So for me, what I would want to say is that skill, the negotiating skill, is something so critical in your career, because there are so many people who are very good and they are top talent. They are very good at what they do and they are very good employees, but because they started off way low, they did not negotiate for their salaries. They took the first job, the amount they were offered, that's what they took. Now, so many years later, they're not able to close that gap. So you find, you're being paid half of what your peers are being paid, just because you are too uncomfortable to have that conversation. So negotiating, like having that negotiating skill, it's something that you want to be intentional about doing. And you can, watch this podcast. It's going to be on YouTube and also, like on the podcast. So you want to listen to it, practice saying the number, take stock of your value, take stock of, why 100,000 or why 50,000 or why you want like this promotion and you want 500,000. When you practice and practice, it's going to get easier. But what I can guarantee you is, if you do not become intentional about building that negotiating skill, your career is going to suffer. So thank you so much, Angie, for coming. This was so much fun, and I'm sure you invite me again.
I will, definitely. This was so much fun, and thank you guys for watching and listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.